Ever feel like those massive construction projects are kind of, shrouded in mystery? Like, how do they actually know if they're on track or not?
Right.
Today, we are diving into a case study that really kind of throws open the doors, and they're using some really cool, seriously cool tech to keep tabs on everything
Yeah.
on a mega skyscraper project.
And when we say mega, we mean it. This is the line in the UAE picture skyscrapers even taller than the Burj Khalifa.
Wow.
And that's just for starters.
Okay, so we're talking like next level construction here, which I mean makes me wonder, how do you even begin to like wrap your head around managing something that complex?
Right.
We've got excerpts from a document that walks us through like a specific example, right?
Absolutely. This document really takes us behind the scenes with, we've got Leah, who is a tech whiz, who's testing out this new project assessment software.
Okay.
And then we have Mark. He's the project manager for this massive, massive undertaking.
I bet.
Mark's feeling the pressure, understandably so, to keep everything on schedule.
I can only imagine, yeah. But it sounds like he's hitting some snags with those like, those old school methods, like relying on those 360-degree site photos and just kind of hoping for the best.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Those photos just give you a snapshot in time, right?
Right.
Mark's also relying on those traditional, progress reports. But here's where those alarm bells start to ring. He's noticing these discrepancies, particularly in one of the foundation areas for the third tower they're working on.
Oh, that's never a good sign. Is this where that whole like 90% done but feels like 0% started syndrome comes in? Because I swear that is the story of my life with even like the smallest projects.
You and every project manager ever.
Right.
And that's where Leah's expertise with this new software really comes in. It's not just about tracking progress, like in a general sense.
Okay.
It's about the completion status of literally every single element. Think columns, foundations, walls, even down to the nitty-gritty.
So instead of just eyeballing it and hoping for the best, they've got a system that's telling them, this is done, this is in progress, and this hasn't even been started yet.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
You got it. Think of it like a traffic light system for each part of the building.
Yeah.
Red for not started, yellow for in progress, and green for completed.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. This state-based tracking, it really takes out all of that ambiguity of those old progress reports and just gives you a much, much clearer picture of what's actually done.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense, but where does the whole predicting the future part come in? Because you mentioned this software is next level.
That's where things get really cool, right?
Hey.
Leah's software uses something called Markov Chain Analysis, MCA.
Okay.
It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty intuitive when you really break it down. Think of it this way. Imagine you're looking at, like, all the possible paths a project could take, right? Like different routes on a map.
Right.
Right? MCA analyzes historical data from similar projects. In this case, it's looking at the first two towers of the line, because those are already more than halfway finished.
So it's like they're using the past to predict the future. That's smart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by looking at how elements transition from, not started to in progress to completed, in those previous towers, MCA can actually predict the most likely completion date for this current project, which is pretty amazing.
That's incredible. It's like having a crystal ball for your, like, construction project.
Yeah.
But what happens when, like, those unexpected delays pop up? Or, like, things just don't go according to plan, which, let's be real, happens,
Right.
all the time.
Happens all the time. And that's where those two completion curves really come in. The realistic versus the optimistic timelines.
Right. I remember reading about that. So tell me a little bit more about how those work, because I feel like that's where the real magic happens.
You got it. So the realistic completion date, that one factors in all sorts of different variables. Historical data, current progress, potential risks, you name it. It's like that GPS navigation system for your project telling you, like, the most efficient route given the current conditions, right?
Right.
But then you've also got that optimistic completion curve.
Okay, so that's like if everything goes perfectly smoothly, like no supply chain issues, no weather delays, no global pandemics, everything just falls perfectly into place.
It was like that best case scenario, right?
Yeah.
But it's still, based on data, calculations, not just, wishful thinking. Having both of those curves, it gives project managers like Mark in this situation a really, really clear understanding of that range of possibilities.
So they're not just, stuck hoping for the best. They've got data to back up those projections, which I can only imagine would be like incredibly valuable for someone like Mark, who's like literally responsible for keeping this massive, massive project on track.
Absolutely. And here's the best part. This system, It updates in real time.
Uh,
So every time the status of an element changes in that BIM model, let's say it goes from not started to in progress or in progress to completed, the software automatically recalculates those MCA predictions.
wow. So no more waiting for those like weekly progress reports that are already outdated, the minute they come off the printer.
Exactly. We're talking real-time insights into the project's trajectory,
Yeah.
which is a total game changer for decision making, right?
This is blowing my mind a little bit. Okay, so how did this whole system actually help Mark with that whole foundation issue he was so worried about? The one that like the investor supervisor had flagged as, hot.
Yes, that aha moment. So Mark's looking at the BIM model, right? And he sees that those foundation elements are still marked yellow, which means work in progress.
Yeah.
And he's immediately kind of confused because he was certain that they had made progress in that area.
Right.
He even had a progress report, like one of those old school ones, that said they were, at 60% completion.
Oh, I see where this is going. A classic case of progress doesn't equal completion.
Exactly. And this is where Leah, she steps in, right? And explains the power of that state-based approach. Sure, they've done some excavation, they poured some concrete, but the foundation itself isn't actually finished.
Because even though work was done, it doesn't mean that particular part of the project is fully 100% complete. This is like me when I like rearrange my entire apartment and call it cleaning.
Yeah.
Sure, progress was made, but is it really done? Not even close.
That's a perfect analogy. Those traditional progress reports, they can be really deceiving. You might think you're 90% of the way there, but if that remaining 10% involves a bunch of elements that are like super critical and haven't even been started yet, you're in for a world of delays and probably budget overruns, which nobody wants.
Ouch. That's the nightmare scenario for any project manager. So the state-based system, it kind of helps avoid those nasty surprises by giving you that like granular level of detail that you just can't get with those traditional methods. It's like they say, right? The devil's in the details. Or in this case, the delays are in the details.
Right. And this system, it doesn't just highlight those details, it actually helps you, kind of anticipate and avoid those potential problems before they even pop up.
Oh, yeah.
Those MCA curves that we talked about? They're not just predicting the future, they're kind of acting as an early warning system.
So instead of just like, frantically putting out fires, Mark can like address those little sparks before they become like, major infernos.
Exactly. And, there was this one feature that really stood out to me, the leaps delay detector.
Okay, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine, right, you're looking at the BIM model, and let's say any element that has been kind of stuck in that work in progress state for too long, it just gets like visually flagged. It's like those, those blinking oil change lights in our cars?
Ah, right.
Except in this case, it's a skyscraper telling you exactly where to focus your attention.
That's brilliant. So instead of wasting time trying to figure out like where the bottlenecks are, this system is like, hey, look over here.
Exactly. It's all about identifying and addressing those issues in real time, which is pretty cool. And what's even cooler? They're already developing like an augmented reality version of this software, which just blows my mind.
Whoa, hold on. So you're telling me that soon project managers will be able to like walk through the construction site with like AR glasses that like overlay those completion statuses onto the actual building? That's next level.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. And it makes you wonder, what are the possibilities when we can start applying this technology, on a much larger scale?
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. So we've seen how this BIM analytics approach can really do wonders for a single, albeit massive skyscraper. But what happens when we kind of like zoom out a little bit?
Right. Imagine aggregating this data across multiple projects, across entire cities, right? Could we use this to actually predict material shortages before they even happen? Optimize construction schedules across like a whole urban landscape, or maybe even like revolutionize how we approach those mega infrastructure projects that always seem to take forever.
It's like having a crystal ball, but for like the future of construction. So instead of just reacting to all these different problems, we could actually proactively shape our cities and our infrastructure in ways that we never even thought possible before.
Exactly. And while we're not quite there yet, I think this deep dive really gives us a glimpse into what that future might hold. I mean, the construction industry, it's always been about pushing those boundaries, right?
Right.
And with tools like this, who knows what we'll build next?
And on that note, we have reached the top floor of today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored the world of BIM analytics and those, like, gravity-defying skyscrapers. Until next time, keep your heads up and your minds curious.